Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this overview, we're going to be looking at a civ that can either be one of the strongest in the game or among the weakest, depending on which map you're playing. That is, the Turks. Now, Turks are a gunpowder civilization, and at least currently this patch sit at number 1 on Arena, battling it out with Bohemians. On the other hand, if we shift alphabetically ever so slightly to the left and look at Arabia, they're suddenly the second worst. Like Janissaries, they're a little hit or miss, largely explained by having one of the most powerful Imperial Age spikes of any civilization. At the same time, there's always a feeling that you're under the gun to close things out before your gold piles run dry, at which point things can fall apart rapidly. It helps to go in with a game plan, so let's check them out. To start with their team bonus, Turks and their allies' gunpowder units are created 25% faster. This includes not just hand cannoneers, but also bombard cannons, cannon galleons, and the Turks' unique unit. This helps especially when you have a low building count, exactly like in a fast Imperial strategy, where you may have just 1 or 2 archery ranges and a siege workshop. We of course have to talk about that strategy if we want to discuss Turks, so we may as well touch on it now. The idea is simply on a map like Arena, you delay going to Feudal Age until you have 30 or so villagers, then beelining straight to Imperial, making just 2 more villagers in Feudal and Castle Age while you place buildings, hitting Imperial Age at around 20 minutes, or just after. You then go immediately into your quickly trained gunpowder units to out-tech your opponent, and as we'll see, lots of the Turks' bonuses work together to support this, with faster trained units being an obvious one to start. Next, moving on to their proper civ bonuses, the first is a set of gunpowder related ones, with gunpowder units having more HP, being cheaper to research, and getting free chemistry the instant you hit Imperial. To start with the HP bonus, more tankiness is always nice, with Janissaries and hand cannons being able to survive a direct onager shot thanks to this. Bombard cannons getting 20 more HP is also great against enemy siege and archers. Probably the least important is the cannon galleon benefiting from this, but it does technically as well. All of these are of course units you don't really want to be tanking a lot of damage, and are also very expensive, so anything to help hold on to them is pretty great. The next part of the bonus is lowering gunpowder research costs by 50%, as a bit of a relic of a bygone era in the game. Of the 5 techs this originally applied to, only 2 of them remain, with the Bombard Tower tech and Elite Cannon Galleon upgrade. Hand cannons, bombard cannons, and cannon galleons used to be locked behind techs that are now removed as prerequisites. So while this used to give a ton of value, the main help now is with teching into bombard towers, saving 600 resources. The third part of the bonus is, I'd say, the most impactful, which is free chemistry. Chemistry is one of the longest techs to research in the game at 1 minute and 40 seconds, meaning any other civ trying a fast Imperial Age would have to advance 4 villagers earlier than Turks to have their first gunpowder units come out at roughly the same time. I'd argue this bonus actually does the most heavy lifting in making Turk Fast Imperial so popular and powerful, though training those units faster and with more HP doesn't hurt either. Their next bonus is their gold miners work 20% faster. Of course, Imperial Age costs 800 gold, and gunpowder units are gold intensive as well, so it's another way you're helped out with that classic strategy. Moving away from Arena though, this actually becomes your only eco bonus, which partly explains their struggles on open maps. Theoretically, you can get away with 6 villagers on gold for double range archers instead of 7, and Turks also have fully upgraded knights and camels in Castle Age, which are indirectly supported by this. Maybe the most interesting implication is that with starting market prices in the gold mining tech, you're theoretically able to collect gold and buy food faster than you would be able to farm it with those same villagers. You can really approach this bonus in 2 ways, either taking 1 or 2 villagers off gold and treating it like an extra villager bonus, or do the reverse and put a couple extra onto gold, then using the market to buy your way up to a slightly faster Castle Age. Alternately, let's be honest, most players just forget about this bonus entirely and flow even more gold than usual, but on paper it is helping. Next up are their last 2 bonuses, which I'm going to put together as they affect the same units, getting these scout line upgrades for free, so instant light cavalry in Castle Age and instant hussar in Imperial Age, plus 1 extra pierce armor on that unit line. In Feudal Age, that +1 pierce armor makes scouts a very solid opening, and allows them to take 50% more shots from feudal archers and a third more from town centers immediately. In Castle Age, you then get instant light cavalry, which becomes actually a pretty intriguing unit for Turks. Usually, knights are considered strictly better, but in this case, having fully upgraded light cavalry with that +1 pierce armor means they take the same number of crossbow shots as fully upgraded knights, while only costing food. Knights are better in melee and picking off villagers, of course, but if any civ can make Castle Age light cavalry work, it's probably the Turks. Even just one or two can be useful on Arena for sniping enemy monks and securing relics as well. In Imperial Age, you then save a huge amount on the Hussar upgrade, with those units also taking 50% more town center shots than usual from their extra armor. While Gunpowder may be the first thing you think of with Turks, the light cavalry line is actually above average at all stages of the game. One thing I should note is it's tempting to think of this as reducing the importance of grabbing armor techs, but it's almost the opposite in reality. Against a Castle Age crossbow with 7 attack, going from 2 to 3 pierce armor for a light cavalry with no armor upgrades, the bonus reduces their damage taken by 20%. But with both cavalry upgrades researched already, the bonus effectively reduces the damage taken by 33%. If anything, it supercharges your existing armor upgrades, making the unit surprisingly effective against archers if you're staying on top of your techs. So that's the Turks bonuses, which combine to give you the Turks reputation as maybe a little slow in the early game, but with a massive power spike in Imperial Age, getting instant chemistry and Hussar, along with unlocking your powerful gunpowder options. One gunpowder unit actually comes in before chemistry though, and that's the unique unit at the castle, the Janissary. At first glance, either this unit or the hand cannoneer might seem redundant, and it's true that players usually only make one or the other, but each one has slightly different specialties and roles. The first obvious one is the Janissary is available in Castle Age, when the hand cannoneer isn't available yet. It's a pretty scary unit at that point, with 17 attack, low HP as expected, and no base pierce armor, so they're a little squishy, but then have 7 range by default. While that's the same as a fully upgraded crossbow, an important point is that Janissaries are one of the cheapest units to fully upgrade in the game, with armor being the only tech affecting them besides the elite upgrade. They have a couple of notable downsides though. First, they're very inaccurate, missing about half their shots at a distance, and they also reload quite slowly, so their DPS isn't as good as you might expect. And against low to mid-range pierce armor units, it doesn't necessarily deal more damage over time than a crossbow. They're also a little pricey, at 60 food and 55 gold, which is 45 more resources than a crossbowman and 20 more than a hand cannoneer for reference, meaning, for example, they lose cost effectively against most archers. Against units with high pierce armor though, their attack is much less affected, and while skirmishers and mangonels are still counters, the Janissary hits back a lot harder than your typical archer, especially up close where you get nearly 100% accuracy. Again, the obvious comparison is to the hand cannoneer in Imperial Age though. By far the most important distinction to know is that the hand cannoneer has a major bonus against infantry, while the Janissary does not. Against infantry specifically, the hand cannoneer does more damage, but the elite Janissary having 5 more attack does more damage against everything else, while also having 1 more range. On the flip side, a huge drawback to point out here is the Janissary needs an elite upgrade, while the hand cannoneer doesn't, and also costs more on a per unit basis. That makes them situational, but in some cases they can still be worth that higher price, and as one example, they do 50% more damage against paladins. In practice, Janissaries also give you a second viable strategy on Arena, where instead of a fast Imperial at 20 to 22 minutes, you drop a castle several minutes earlier, then making Janissaries instead of hand cannons. It has a slightly different flavor, as you don't have access to bombard cannons, and instead mainly use petards or mangonels to help break in. Usually on Arena, an opponent won't be able to see if you're collecting stone to help figure out which of these two common strategies you're attempting, and even after seeing your feudal time, they may not be 100% sure. So that's the unique unit, but now let's stay at the castle and take a look at the unique techs. The first takes us in a very different direction, giving cavalry archers and genitours an extra 20 HP, which combined with your gold bonus makes cavalry archers a surprisingly good mid to late game unit. HP is generally less important for archer units than attack and range, but cavalry archers are a bit different, as they're so expensive, and it's particularly important to build and keep their numbers up to be effective. They also play nicely off your light cavalry line, giving you a very mobile army that protect each other from a lot of their natural weaknesses. Light cavalry and hussars deal with siege, skirmishers, and archers thanks to extra pierce armor, where the cavalry archer provides the DPS and answer to pikes. Their other unique tech, artillery, gives bombard cannons, towers, and cannon galleons +2 range. Keep in mind you're missing siege engineers, so in practice it's more like +1 for the bombard cannon and cannon galleon over many other civs. It's hard to overestimate this tech's importance for the bombard tower though, letting them reach enemy bombard cannons even with siege engineers, basically removing that unit as a threat. Combined with half-price research to unlock those, Turks actually become, in my opinion, the best bombard tower civ in the game. All of a sudden, late-game Turks are really feeling like they can do a bit of everything, with the elite Janissary, top-tier cavalry archers, and top-tier bomber towers added into their hussars and excellent gunpowder. You can see on maps where they're safe from early raids why they're doing so well, though they pay for all of this with some potentially crippling upgrades they lack in their tech tree, which we'll take a look at next, starting with the archers. This is one of the more unconventional archery ranges you're going to see. Right away, you're missing Arbalester and Elite Skirmisher, so it starts terribly, but you then have some of the tankiest fully upgraded cavalry archers and hand cannoneers. I should also point out archers and crossbows is totally fine in the early to mid game, with the gold bonus helping there as well. Despite the two glaring holes, I still think it's a B+, as they're potentially threatening early and late, albeit using different unit lines to accomplish that. Next up, for infantry, you basically never make the spear line as Turks, and instead need to rely on camels against knights. The swordsman line is just fine for its part, only missing gambesons, but overall the barracks isn't really a focus for the Civ, and I'd say it's just a C. Moving on to cavalry, here things are pretty solid all around. The scout line has +1 pierce armor, plus you get the free light cavalry and hussar upgrades. Knights and camels are then helped out by your gold bonus, with the downside here just being that using camels as your anti-cavalry unit means if you run out of access to gold against an enemy cavalry civ, you're in pretty big trouble. Still, as long as you have gold, I'd give them a B+. Next up for the siege ram is nice, and of course your bombard cannons are excellent with more HP and potentially more range. They're one of only 2 civs lacking onager though, which compounds with missing elite skirmisher to really cut down on your options against good archer civs. You can see the extra pierce armor on your scout line trying to address some of that weakness, and is also a situation where the bombard cannon can be huge as well, making it a key part of the Turks' late game. Personally, I love onagers, but I still think this is good enough for a B+. Moving on to the Navy, early on you theoretically have your gold bonus and all techs are available. They're not the first civ that comes to mind, but have enough help on water for a C. Late game, you have extra range and HP on your cannon galleons, and they're cheaper to tech into. Considering you're missing fast fire ship and don't really have a late game naval bonus, I think it falls to a B- for a C+ on water overall. Taking a quick look now at the monks, they're actually respectable. A monk rush isn't a very common strategy for Turks, but works with your gold bonus. Or monks could play a nice support role for your siege pushes and tanky cavalry archers, just remembering they don't heal bombard cannons. Still, I'd say it's enough for a B. Next up for defenses, you have plenty of techs to help you secure the map and fortify your base. Don't forget your bombard towers with potentially 13 range can be very annoying for opponents to deal with, especially when backed up by bombard cannons to snipe trebuchets. For being one of the best civs at entrenching the map in the late game, I'd actually give them an A- here, held back only by the lack of early defensive bonuses like Byzantines have, for example. And finally, for their trash units, I mean, what can you say? Can good hussars carry this category alone? I'm gonna say no, and that it's a C. It's basically 1 above average and 2 borderline unusable units in the late game, though Turk spearmen can trade slightly cost effectively against generic hussars, to be fair. So to close on some final thoughts, there's no question Turks start relatively slow with no Dark Age bonus, and also end pretty terribly, at least if you run out of gold and have basically 1 viable unit. That said, what happens in between can be amazing, especially on Arena, where an early castle drop into Janissaries or a fast Imperial into hand and bombard cannons are staples of the Turk experience. More generally, on open or semi-open maps, like I said, scouts are probably the most natural choice, making use of your extra pierce armor and putting pressure on your opponent. Mid-game, you then have a surprising number of options, with cavalry archers being a unit in particular I often try to aim for. That said, their crossbows, light cavalry, knights, camels, or janissary are all reasonable in any combination, and I should point out all of those are fully upgraded in the mid-game. The main issue is just working around your lack of pikes and elite skirmishers, as either hard counters or even just filler units to make your gold last longer. The main goal for Turks though is mostly just to survive the mid-game until you hit your Imperial Age spike, instantly getting chemistry, hussar, plus unlocking your strong gunpowder, which is clearly meant to be your comeback window if you've kept things close. Once in Imperial Age, the 2 core units are really the hussar and bombard cannon, and you can take your pick for a ranged unit to add in some punch, with either cavalry archers or gunpowder, depending on what you're up against. On Team Game Black Forest or Amazon Tunnel, don't forget your bombard towers either, which are amazing at locking down map control. Again, everything here is very gold intensive, with bombard towers costing gold as well, and Turks have that reputation for a reason, arguably being pretty stone dependent too. Obviously, if you're interested in this civ though, you have an intense fascination with gold, meaning incidentally you'll probably be a fan of my new online side business, Spirit of the Leicester, which can accommodate all of your gold trading needs. It has a great website I made in minutes thanks to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a great-looking website, engage with your audience, and then sell anything from products to content to time all in one place. Using one of their templates, you can easily customize a website to your preferred aesthetic and then sell your product or services. That could include physical goods or digital content, including access to your own video library, with Squarespace handling the payment side of things so you can focus on the bigger picture. Using the built-in analytic and insight tools, you can then see exactly what's working and what's not, so you can continue to grow and scale your business more effectively. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/spirit of the law to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. So that was a revisit of the Turks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.